Come on. Welcome to the Yahowah blog. As you can see, I was pouring myself a glass of iced tea in case my throat gets a little dry here during the podcast. And of course, I know that my Wookiee has high expectations and likes his tea, both green and cold. So we'll see if he does something other than turn a tail towards it as we go through our Yahowah vlog. This is a continuing story of Gabor, of God's preference for those who are confident and courageous. What we're doing is rebuking the notion that God wants to be associated with those who are humble and meek, because he doesn't. He is looking for men that are willing to take a stand, who have a backbone, who have some grit, who are committed to him, and who are absolutely confident in their relationship with him, such that they convey the courage that would be associated with knowing that you're taking stride by stride with the creator God of the universe, and that he not only has your back, but that he is working with you such that together we succeed. In doing so, there's no better place to turn, of course, than to the Mizmowr of our king, Dowd. He is the one who God chose, the one that God said is most like him, the one he said is returning as Elyon, as the very influence of God in our presence, as the Messiah and returning king. In the 11th statement of the 34th Psalm, he wrote, "Choose to move forward. Choose to stand up and walk, not crawl, not bow down, not grovel. Choose to move forward, not tremble in place. Choose to move forward, standing up and walking, making progress in life's journey. Halak, travel, in the imperative. Sons, children, choose to listen to me." This is now Dowd speaking. "Choose to listen to me. Shama, la'ane. I will teach you how. Lamed. I will instruct you on the process of how to properly respect Yahowah." Yes, indeed. One respects Yahowah by Gaboring up. One respects Yahowah by listening to his beloved son Dowd. One respects Yahowah by disassociating from that corrupt counterfeit of Jesus Christ. One respects Yahowah by disrespecting the rabbis who promoted the myth of Bar Kokhba as a false Messiah. One respects Yahowah by respecting his son, and therefore listening to the words that Dowd wrote throughout these Mizmowr Psalms, including this one. So, if you want to have a future other than the dissipation of your soul or the internment of your soul, the answer is to choose to move forward, to walk, stand up, make progress in life. Choose to listen to Dowd. Dowd is the one who will teach you how to properly respect Yahowah. Mizmowr Psalm 34:11. Powerful, direct, incontrovertible. Never bow knee or head. Stand before God, walk with him, and do so alongside his beloved Son, our Savior, the King. How many times in life has the leader of a people said, "Follow me, walk with me, listen to me, and I will teach you how to respect the creator God of the universe, Yahowah." Oh, you read it right here, didn't we? We are wise to follow our shepherd. especially as children of the covenant and part of his flock. And if ever a man knew the heart of God, it is his son. There is no better teacher in this regard. We should all, therefore, strive to know and learn from this man. And that is why I am so committed to the 4th volume of Coming Home, and the fact that it is devoted to this very specific thing: coming to know and respect Yahweh by listening to Dowd. Then he asks about another. He finished that last line, listen to me, and I will show you. And now he is speaking of another. Who is this man? Maha-ish, who desires lives, loving the days to witness that which is productive and beneficial. Mizmowr Psalm 34:12. So Dowd, in saying that I'm going to teach you how to respect Yahweh if you get up and walk and listen to me, immediately directed us to identify the man who desires lives, loving the days to serve as a witness to that which is productive and beneficial. Dowd is not doing this alone. You know, it's one of the things that you quickly come to assess when you read the Torah and the prophets, that the job that Yahweh once accomplished, which is the return, thank you for that. Oh, what a nice fan that tail is. Those who serve in this regard, speaking for Yahweh, calling Yahweh's family home, never succeed on their own. In fact, what we find out is that God doesn't even succeed on his own. When Yahweh chose on his own accord to speak directly to the children of Yisrael, it was a colossal failure, other than to prove his point that you can't succeed working with Yahweh alone. Even if as a singular person, you are working in conjunction with Yahweh, empowered and enriched by him. Moshe had the spirit of Yahweh upon him. He had the presence of Yahweh with him. And not only did Yahweh fail when he spoke directly to his people, and they told him to shut up and go away, they never wanted to hear from him or see him again. And so I'm happy to give you your wish. That works out far better for me. If we only knew what that actually meant for a number of people going forward, but it certainly worked out better for Yahweh. I'll give you that one. From that point on, he chose to work through people. And what we learned is that Moshe almost immediately gave up. And Moshe says, I can't do it. I won't do it. The job is impossible. No one can lead these people alone. The job is absolutely impossible. And that is because they are so downright disagreeable. So we have the first example. And God did not in any way contradict Moshe and say, oh, come on, I've got your back. I'm here with you. The job's not so impossible. These people are somehow redeemable. No, he didn't say they were redeemable. And no, he didn't say that we can make an accommodation for them. And he didn't tell Moshe, no, you're wrong, by the conclusion that these people are impossible for any one person to lead, even with me sitting right beside you. No, he didn't. What he did instead is he said, listen, I'm going to share the spirit that I have placed upon you with 70 individuals. Those 70 individuals are not going to be empowered to convey the word of God. So this oral Torah thing is utter nonsense. All they're going to be is a defense mechanism protecting and shielding you from some of the abuse that the people are attacking you with. It's just so they're going to keep the belligerents away. That is their job. And I'm going to share my spirit with them for them to run interference for you in this regard. But in terms of speaking for Yahweh, we find that Yahweh says, I got this. I understand, Moshe. They're impossible for you to do it alone. I got a couple of guys. Want to meet them? Their names are Dowd, Yahweh's beloved, and my Dowd, Dowd's beloved friend. They are both filled with the Spirit. They're both exceedingly literate and will write a great deal. And they will speak what I inspire them to say. You get them to the promised land. They'll take it from there. And then come Dowd, the greatest man who ever lived. Yahweh's firstborn son, our Messiah. The man anointed with Yahweh's Spirit. The man that Yahweh chose to lead his people. The very man who volunteered to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim, to suffer crucifixion in the fulfillment of Passover, and then to carry our guilt into Sheol, into hell, to liberate us from it on Matzah, so that we could enjoy what he already enjoyed. He was the Bakor, the firstborn of Yahweh, and now he is offering us Bekurim to be God's firstborn children. And even he couldn't do it alone. Not only was it Yahweh who worked with him to accomplish the benefits of and deliver the benefits of Pesach, Matzah, and Bekurim, but what happened after Dowd fulfilled the spring Miqraey? The whole world turned against him, especially his people. They denied him. They denounced him. They ripped the Messiah title away from him and gave it to another, not once, but twice, and doing it again even now. They don't recognize him as their returning king. They don't recognize him as the Son of God. They don't recognize him as their Savior. And when Yahweh and I began this mission together 24 years ago, there wasn't a single person on the planet who over the previous 2,500 years recognized any of these things about Dowd. He did them, but they were to no avail. Someone would have to come along and change that. And that is why he said, who is this man who desires lives, loving the days to witness to that which is productive and beneficial? Because without that man, without Dowd's Herald, without the final Zeroah, without ha-Nakri, as presented by Moshe in the Torah, there is no benefit of anything Dowd accomplished. There are no upcoming harvests. There is no mortal remnant of Yisrael who survives to see the king's return. God doesn't return. There is no return to the garden on earth, our re-entry into it. It is all for naught, and Dowd knew it would all be for naught. And therefore, he is celebrating the lives of the man who would rectify that situation. It is going back to the lesson that he learned, because if I figured it out, he figured it out too, that the greater and lesser luminaries of Genesis 1 that serve as the signs for the Moed, for these restoring witnesses to the eternal testimony. They are God's beloved son, Dowd, and his herald, Yada. He knew it. The sun's brilliance would be reflected by the lesser luminary during the time of darkness. That is what he is attesting to here. As I have shared previously, every covenant member will live 2 lives, while 3 will experience 1 more. These men, who are noted for their productive witness, offer the second of their 3 lives to prolong the existence of others. They are the ram, the goat, and the bull. They are Dowd, Elia, and Yada. They live for you. What you choose to do in association with them is up to you, but it will determine the fate of your soul. Now we return to the statement we were considering at the end of our last program here on Gabor. Keep your tongue from that which is wrong, troubling and harmful, and your lips from saying that which is dishonest and deceptive, especially that which is deliberately misleading. Since Dowd is speaking to us now about this man whose lives are dedicated to the restoring witness of Yahweh and to the message that is finally productive and beneficial for his people, he's still speaking of our time. And therefore, he is warning those who would promote that which is wrong, troubling, and harmful from being dishonest and deceptive. In this regard, he's really not speaking to Muslims because they're not going to listen to this ever. Never going to hear it. He is really not speaking to Christians either because they're not listening to this. I don't even think he's speaking to rabbis, although he can be speaking to secular Jews who would have otherwise advanced the culture that is created around the rabbis and assume that because it's cultural, it must be true. And what God is saying here is if you are a cultural Jew, then the thing that is important for you is to stay within that narrow space of guilt by omission rather than guilt by commission. And these are profoundly different things, as we learned in studying the 15th chapter of Mizmowr in the wilderness, Numbers. And that is because that final sacrifice by the man from Edom, this Adamah Parah, can resolve guilt by omission, but not by commission. And the difference is, if you are choosing to say that which is wrong and troublesome, and if your lips state that which is dishonest and deceptive, as opposed to your ears just hearing it, then you have gone across that divide for which there is no return. You are now against Yahweh, against his restoring witness, against Hanakri, against the Messiah, Dowd. Don't do it. Start listening, stop talking. If you're listening and not talking, then you're not committing an act of commission where you are misleading. If you're only listening, the worst that can be said is you're guilty by omission. And that is monumental as we move towards the sacrifice of the bull on Taruwah. Now, specifically, Yahweh has a lot to say about this mother goddess cult that has emerged in our midst. And they finally had their coming out party, and it has turned out to be their funeral. And in it, they cited two passages where they claimed that YHWH, which they like to write as Yahweh, is mother and father. Two personas, two gods. And Yahweh is really good, really astute at the refutation of nonsense when it is directed towards him or those through whom he is working. And so I have taken the three statements that they cited, one indirectly, two directly, and have rendered them in full, such that we have driven the last nail into the coffin of the mother goddesses. It's over. And I will complete the last of that analysis later today or tomorrow morning. And I'm hoping that Mariah is able to convert it into the format that I can post on Facebook. We'll do so. And then we'll do a show on it. Because as I say, Yahweh is just marvelous, absolutely brilliant. in his refutal and rebuttal of anyone who works against someone he is deploying and attacks that individual's credibility or attacks his nature. And I want to share with you what he had to say, because it's brilliant beyond words. So the message is here. If you're listening to the wrong people, you can be considered guilty by omission. But if you're speaking for the wrong people, then you're guilty of commission. And it can't be resolved. Not now, not at this time, not anymore. So while this sounds simple enough, most do otherwise, of course. And as I have shared with you, if you think that that's not true, then spend a day with me in social media and you'll find out exactly how belligerent people are. And one of the things that I shared with you previously is that if you're really astute, one of the things that you will discern from the religious is that as the Lord of religion, Hasatan, the adversary, inspires those who believe that he is actually a god into condemning those who know that he's actually the adversary by calling those who are correct about Satan Satanic. It is the gist of the Quran. It is the gist of the New Testament. It would be the gist of the Talmud too, but they don't much like Satan unless they can mock him. And the Talmud, they want to have Rosh Hashanah as the day to fool the devil. But other than comic strip Babylonian relief, comic relief, they really don't have much to say about him. But in the New Testament, in the Quran, that is a central theme, that anybody who questions, who criticizes the absurd message that is declared in the New Testament and in the Quran is automatically labeled Satan, when in fact the God of the New Testament and the Quran is Satan, and those who are exposing him are working for Yahweh to free the believers from the adversary, the opposite of what's true. But then again, Satan is the adversary, and he's presenting himself as the God of religion. Now, if religion didn't get in the way, what follows would be simple enough. You should choose to turn away from that which is wrong and harmful. And you should decide to act upon and engage in that which is beneficial, productive, and useful, opting of your own free will to diligently seek and procure the information needed to obtain reconciliation, and then pursue it. Now, it doesn't say here that, you can pretend that you're covenant, even though you obviously don't understand enough of it to keep yourself from joining a conspiracy cult in opposition to it. And then after long and dedicated service to the one that Yahweh has chosen to work through, you go off and serve the one who is in opposition to him, and it'll be okay. Because, well, you put in some time previously, so that should count. No. You should choose to turn away from that which is wrong and harmful. It isn't that you should turn towards that which is wrong and harmful. You should turn away from it. You should decide to act and engage in that which is beneficial, not for a little while. This was written in the call imperative, and in the imperative, there is two aspects of it. One is that it is an expression of second-person volition, and the other is that it's ongoing. You should decide to act upon and engage in that which is beneficial, productive, and useful, like the things that Yahweh has authorized and condoned. Like, for example, the prophecy of Hanakri in the Torah, and then during the dedication of the house for Yahweh's name by Solomon, or the introduction of the Choder by Dowd in the 14th Mashal proverb, and then again by Isaiah in the 11th chapter. support with that which is beneficial and productive. Don't engage in that which is raw. Are you familiar with another place where Yahweh juxtapositions raw with Towb? Opposite order, it's Towb first and raw second. Are you familiar of any place where Yahweh taught us a lesson about how if we engage improperly with something that supplies Towb and raw, that we won't live as a result? I do. How about back in Eden with the tree of knowledge of that which is Towb, good, beneficial, and useful, and raw, that which is bad and undesirable and unproductive, dead wrong. So if you've got it inverted and you're dealing with that which is raw instead of that which is Towb, you aren't benefiting from Yahweh's reestablishment of the tree, of the knowledge of that which is good and bad. Yada Yahowah. That is the replanting of the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, of relationship versus religion. That is, in fact, the purpose of the metaphor of the choder and of the olive trees on other side of the menorah, as presented in Zakar, and the choder that is presented in the Mashal and in Isaiah. That is the metaphor. It's a branch off that tree of the knowledge of that which is productive and good and rotten and evil. God reestablished that tree. That's what he said when it grew out of that fallen root stump of that which is outstanding and should be noticed. That's what he meant. And because that rootstock also speaks of our Messiah, Dowd, it provides the fruit that will lead you to the tree of lives. And that tree of lives is Dowd. Now, do you understand? Do you have the proper perspective? Do you know what our brilliant king and prophet is addressing on behalf of his God? In this case, you should choose to turn away from that which is raw, wrong, harmful, evil, injurious, and decide to act upon, engage in that which is beneficial, productive, and useful, opting of your own free will to diligently seek and procure information to obtain shalom, reconciliation, prosperity, and satisfaction, the blessing of salvation through a harmonious relationship. And then pursue it. Go, be active, engage, capitalize, profit from. Do more than just like. Do more than just share. Learn and then teach. Listen and then talk. Comprehend and then communicate. What you've just heard is profound, and it's never been stated previously. But that's exactly what Dowd meant for us to hear. Obviously, doing so is a life well lived. It is the path seldom tread. And yet, this is the only path that leads to God, so it is highly recommended. Now, in this regard, I see the role that Yahweh intended for the tree of knowledge. By returning to it as presented In Yada Yahowah, everyone is afforded the evidence required to reject that which is wrong about religion and to accept all that is right and productive regarding the relationship that Yahweh intended. And should this journey be through the pages of Yada Yahowah, which it likely is, it will lead the reader right back to Yahweh, to his Torah. And it will lead to reconciliation and access to the tree of lives as it brings us right back to Dowd, brings us back home. Now, there would be no reason for Yahweh to know those who are not interested in knowing him. However, on the rare occasion that a soul seeks God, Yahweh is always receptive, and that's an insight needed to appreciate this next line. The eyes and focus of Yahweh are directed on those who are right, and his ears are concerned over their call for assistance. If you capitalize now on the tree of the knowledge of that which is productive and beneficial, as well as the knowledge of that which is counterproductive and destructive, Yada Yahowah, the result of that is that you will be Tsadaq. You will be right about God. And when you're right about God, God is right there for you. Those who do not know God pray to a God of their own making, a religious God who never listens. But those who are so few but so valuable that they are right about Yahweh, God is all ears. He wants to hear from those individuals because he is concerned that he's right there at every moment to answer their call for assistance. He's there to help us. I heard a rabbi rant a few days ago. I posted it on Facebook about how we're not to receive benefits from God. We're to be a benefit to him. And it's us about giving God what he needs, according to this rabbi. And so the rabbi said, God needs us to do the mitzvah. So we ought to be diligent in doing the mitzvah. So we give God what he needs. What a disgusting God that would be. What a disgusting religion that is. How backwards is that? Yahweh didn't say that he's our bratty little brother that's a parasite and clinging to us and needs us to do everything for him, including wipe his nose and wipe his butt, did he? No, he's our father. And as our father, he is there to help us. He's there to lift us up, to support us. And when we're about his business, he is all in his support for everything we do together. Rather than try to lift God up in praise, allow him to lift us up. That's the whole idea of being a dad. Dads don't tell their children to get down on their knees and to grovel, to cower in fear. They don't ask their children, well, you need to go out and work today because, daddy needs money in his bank account. I need you to perform all these rituals because, well, I like it when you grovel like that. No. Loving fathers lift up their children. They support them. So, clearly, when it comes to God, nothing is more important than me and Tsadaq, right? And not surprisingly, the man who wrote these words was called Tsadaq more often than any other. That's why he was the one who was called to be king. This next statement, of course, then can be written to convey the opposite result of the previous one. As such, it would warn. The presence of Yahweh is against those who do that which is wrong, injurious, and harmful, to the point of cutting off and exterminating all recollection and remembrance of them from the earth. If you're wrong about God, if you are doing that which is injurious and harmful, you're going to be exterminated. God's going to exclude you. He is going to destroy you. And that time of extermination and destruction is fast approaching. We're only, less than 8 years away from that date. Taruwah, 24 September 2033. You will be nothing but a fading echo in time if you continue to promote that which is untrue about God. Now, heaven would not be joyous, of course, for the best of us if we are reminded constantly of the worst of us. One of the ways is that I knew that those who were active in this mother goddess cult, who were being so embittered and rebellious that they could not be included in the upcoming harvest or be invited into heaven, is that based on all they have done, they would make the experience miserable for those who have stayed the course and have served with Yahowah. And so I knew that there was no chance that God would ever allow them to participate after what they have done. Makes sense, doesn't it? Therefore, our recollections will be cultivated such that we recall the things which were beneficial and uplifting, and the memory of those who were belligerent, clean slate, wiped away. Now, this known, I'd like to share a different interpretation of the exact same words that comprise the preceding statement, but this time rendered more positively. When seen from this perspective, the result affirms the merits of those whose sacrifices served to redeem God's people. It takes us back to Dowd's prior acknowledgement of the man who would live several lives to serve as a witness. Same words, just presented differently, but within the very tight confines of what is consistent with the terminology Yahweh chose. The presence of Yahweh is with those who engage and act against that which is wrong, injurious, and harmful. They, as the most memorable of men, establish the covenant on behalf of the earth. Same words, all translated consistent with their meaning. The presence of Yahweh is with those who engage and act against that which is wrong, injurious, and harmful. They, as the most memorable of men, Zakar, establish the covenant. They are the ones who cut us into the agreement on behalf of the earth. Mizmowr, Psalm 34:16. God is not a pacifist or a conciliator. He vociferously opposes that which is injurious. And to advance this life and death cause, Yahweh dispatches the most memorable of men to establish the covenant. There is no question whatsoever that Zakar is both to remember and memorable and men. And it means both for a reason. That's why there is a song that was reposted. I think Patty is the one who found it on Leah's site. I think it's titled, "Oh My Soul." It's in my Facebook feed. I'm sure that by listening to this, Kevin and Rich will find it. And I would love to play it at the beginning of Family Hour, because it speaks of the role of the Adam of Perah, Yahweh's and Dowd's Bashar Herald, and the realization that he is the Zakar, all things pertaining to this memorable man who will accomplish these things on behalf of the children of Israel. It is a beautiful song. It's about 2 or 3 minutes long. Rich, I'm sure you'll find it in my Facebook feed.
Kevin's already downloaded it.
You know, I know I've said this a bunch of times, and I'm going to repeat it. When we had the upheaval of the mother goddesses becoming so obnoxious on behalf of their spirit mom, and they left with the publisher of the books, which my good friend Joe has now resolved, and I'm so grateful to him for doing that. That's what this is now. I completely redone in the new format. And my wife for enduring the lashes that they took towards her. They were revolting in their disgusting animosity towards my wife, something which I will never forgive them for, nor will Yahweh. And I'm so grateful for my wife, not only enduring that, but staying the course. When it would have been so easy and so natural to say, God, I'm going to have my Moses moment too, and I can't do this. These people are way too belligerent. They're way too Miriam. But also for Kevin and Rich, neither one of which I knew hardly at all prior to the fracture of the family. And now you consider how spectacular these men are, how resolute, how courageous, how strong, men of just tremendous character, outstanding knowledge, conviction. They are fully Gabor. Rich is like my wife. He's an introvert. He prefers to hide behind the cables and monitors, not hide, but that's his preference. And that's fine, because he's changed his whole life. He has moved here to be full-time benefiting Yahweh's message to the covenant family and to Yisrael. It doesn't get better than that. And he's such an uplifting personality, so much a welcome member to our family. I couldn't wait to, for example, today to share with him what Yahweh shared with us regarding the rebuke of the mother goddesses.
It's really wild.
It is.
We didn't have to wait for you to interpret anything. Yahweh just spells it right out.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, it's so Yahweh's response to them is so spectacular. I'm announcing this as the final nail in that coffin. It can't survive it. But then that brings us to Kevin, and he is beyond amazing. You all get to see a little of Kevin during Family Hour, but for those who have listened to, and I don't know how many have listened to it on the various YouTube channels and the many places where we are, including X, in addition to Facebook. But the man's smart. He is very talented. He is exceedingly knowledgeable about Yahweh. He is no nonsense and yet has a wicked sense of humor. And so when literally instantly, one day to the next, we replaced those who were too dumb to know that God's not a mom with these men. Truly extraordinary. And say they are the most memorable of men. And by the way, this group, including several others of you who are so valuable and so intensely helpful in advancing Yahweh's message and supporting his Zakar at this time, we are the presence of Yahweh. We are those who are engaged and acting against that which is wrong, injurious, and harmful. We are the cutting edge that's pushing all of the nonsense away so that the truth can be known. And as so we are the most memorable of men. And yes, I understand that there are some very memorable women in this group too. There's some women that, Annie, for example, that is taking on the responsibility of posting these programs on social media channels that I have never been to, TikToks and there's one that starts with a P. What is that one? That's I don't know either.
Patreon? No.
Yeah, I think so.
We have a Patreon account?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
I think so.
I didn't
And
know
other
that.
places. And it's just marvelous to see the outreach in this regard. And then, Mariah, because here I'm sending her this information. Was one of the first to see it. She did a quick edit pass. She actually came back with something that was really powerful. She was editing my first draft of Yahweh's response to the Mother Goddess cult when they came out and assassinated themselves, committed suicide. And she had a couple of, I think, 3 typos. And then it came to an interpretation of the 5th statement that Yahweh etched in stone, which is about showing a sense of value, highly weighting the significance of that which pertains to a father and a mother. And she acknowledged that my assessment that the only father and mother really that can prolong your days in the land, it is actually not land in this case. It is Adamah. It speaks of the man from Edom, Obed Edom, and of the Adamah Peraz. It's that word. Is Abraham and Sarah as the mother and father of the covenant, because the covenant is everything in terms of prolonging life. And she said, "Yeah, says that makes perfect sense to me, and I'm great with that. I understand it, fully on board with it. But God layers thoughts. I have another one, and I agree with her. And her thought was that because this says that which pertains to a father and a mother, it is likely also encouraging us to be good parents. And that if we value the role of parents, take it as our most significant and important job, as Kabed would indicate, then indeed our children will live far longer and more productive lives. And I went one step further and said, the 5th statement etched in stone is the counterpart of the 5th condition of the covenant. That as parents, we circumcise our sons, Zakar, by the way, on the 8th day. And that is the sign of the covenant, because what it is saying is that we and parents are going to value our role as parents to the extent that we want to cut our children into the covenant, and we're going to raise them to be God's children. And that's why it is the sign of the covenant. We as parents are signing, if you will, in blood, this commitment to raise our children to be God's children. And it's the 5th condition of the covenant, just as the 5th statement that is etched in stone. So this is one of the advantages of being family, of one leading to the other. I was reading it's not mine, it's Yahweh's rebuttal to the Mother Goddess cult earlier today. And he says, what they're doing by combining father and mother into one deity is the exact same as the ultimate occultist symbol, Mahomet, Bahomet. And Bahomet and Mahomet are very, very similar. It's actually the basis for Muhammad's name, who was the messenger of Satan. But Bahomet is depicted as the horned goat head and a body that is both masculine and feminine, male and female, mother and father. And he is the god of the Knights Templar of the Roman Catholic Church. He is the god of occultists everywhere. As he said, this certainly reminds me of that. And there we go. Pardon?
Look at your monitor. Your kids are going crazy.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, that's pretty cute, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm waiting for the big yelp when
Yeah,
somebody gets nipped.
Yeah. We have happy children here. So it's just a marvelous place to be when we've reached this point now of having complete trust in Yahweh, so that when somebody tries to establish themselves by refuting Yahweh that came out of our mixed, part of a fractured family, we know God's got the answer, and he does. And it's fun to go into it and see what it is. And in this case, what you're going to find is that his answer was specific to this cult, not in one way, but in every way. And one of the references will blow your mind, as it did mine this morning. So here we are. This is what we're doing. We're trying to cut people into the covenant relationship. It is our job. So as our Father, God is responsible for his children, and especially for those who engage in the family business, those who call out loudly. Therefore, Yahweh hears. And from all of their troubles and dire circumstances and every distressful situation, he delivers them, he defends them, he saves them, snatching them away. That's exactly what I was just saying, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just that every time they have made a claim, this rival group that wants to, but we too speak for God, although we speak for Mommy God, God just nails them. I mean, boom. All you have to do is read his prophetic response regarding them, and he just destroys them. Yeah, he's always ready to defend those who are committed to him and to obliterate those who oppose, both he and those who are working for him. So I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that God is reminding us thrice over that his preference is for the bold, not meek. They are the ones whose summons is heard above the crowd. They are the ones who shout, who engage in a manner that earns and requires divine protection. You wouldn't need, I wouldn't need Yahweh's malak to protect me if I was meek and was afraid to say anything. If I didn't have the courage to write this under my own name, I wouldn't need divine protection. But because I did, I do. And God's happy to provide it. You see, you get the malak to protect you by being bold, by being Gabor. They are the ones whose summons is heard above the crowds. They're the ones who engage in a manner that earns and deserves God's protection. They are the most memorable of men. The one Yahweh delivers from the treatment they endure, from the rebellious and embittered, for having the courage and conviction to tell a very unpopular truth. Yahweh approaches, I should say, and he draws near in close, intimate proximity. Towb. Yahweh approaches and draws near in close and intimate proximity to the judgmental with the proper disposition. Leb, the decisive and properly motivated, who are determined and courageous, thoughtful and devoted, who are crushed and bruised, battered and maimed, scrutinized. And he abolishes, shatters those who are disapproving and destructive. Shabar, to the ones who are mutilated for examining and then breaking apart and fracturing, causing the downfall, and through those who are bludgeoned and cursed, crushed, those who are bludgeoned and crushed in spirit, he provides deliverance and salvation, Yasha. Mizmowr 34:18. So first we know that God is judgmental, because exercising good judgment is a prerequisite for making informed and rational decisions. It is the basis of morality and justice. Those who are perceived as being confident to the point of conceited are judgmental. That's one of the traits that is ubiquitous among us. We form conclusions rapidly and share them and implement them based upon exercising good judgment. And it is something that God is exceedingly committed to. Shaphat is to judge. Mishpat is to ponder the implications of exercising good judgment. It is the essence of being moral. It is the essence of being just, of being fair, of knowing the difference between right and wrong, good and bad, true and false. It is the foundation of morality and justice. The Christian myth of judge not lest you be judged is counter to God's instructions and to being a credible person. Now, in this statement, Yahweh was offering deliverance from the deadly plague of religion through the sacrifice of 3 men. Moshe liberated Yisrael from Mitzrayim. Dowd removed the guilt of every covenant member during Matzah, and Yada will purge the surviving remnant on Taruw'ah before the Messiah's return on Corporeal. All 3 were or will be battered and bruised in the process. The majority remain religious, and the religious despise God to the extent they create their own replacements and they disparage those that God has chosen. It's been the same throughout time. Should you be concerned over my unwillingness to render Dhaka as crushed, battered, and bruised, rather than contrite, which is what I did. I render Dhaka under its primary definition, crushed, battered, and bruised. I did not render it as contrite. And the reason is simple and direct. The actionable root of the noun from which the word is scribed, and it's scribed identically to, so it wasn't hard to find, that the verbal root, Dhaka, defines the noun as crushed, broken, beaten, and bruised, even maimed, becoming pulverized dust. To be Dhaka is to have one's body destroyed by repetitive and vicious blows. Additionally, it is to become despondent as a result of emotional, mental, and physical distress. Dowd was Dhaka on Passover. Dowd was Dhaka on Matzah when he fulfilled it. Yada will be Dhaka on Taruw'ah during its fulfillment. He's Dhaka online now. Moshe was Dhaka by the children of Yisrael during the Exodus. The Ruach spirit that was and will be abused in this manner delivered Dowd from the crushing pressures of Sheol and will protect Yada's nefesh while his body is bludgeoned as the bull on the Temple Mount, come Taruw'ah. Religious publications corrupt these meanings and replace crushed with contrite. In this, the 34th Psalm, and again in the 51st, to make believers easier to control and fleece. There's nothing more passive than someone who is contrite. And while the actual definition of contrite is thoroughly bruised or broken, it is perceived as humble, which is unrelated to any of these things that Yahweh has been encouraging. Now, driving God's point home, since the result is Yasha, salvation, our attention must return to the Moedim, and in particular to Matzah and Taruw'ah when this occurs. In the initial case, Dowd's soul endured the pressures of a black hole, and in the second, Yada will be pummeled to death by Satan. The Miqraey invitations to be called out and meet with God provide the lone path to salvation. Now, we're going to read, and we have already read, that the treatment that Yada receives as the bull on Taruw'ah breaks all but one bone in his body. It leaves him as nothing but a gory mess. It is exactly the way Dowd described well, certainly being unrecognizable as a man as a result of the beating that he received, his suffering on Pesach, on our behalf. The graphic nature of the abuse is actually necessary to drive this point home so that no one misses it. Well, this is the result for those who capitalize upon what they have and will offer. A great many are shepherded, guided, led, protected, befriended, and nurtured, Ra'ah, by being right and vindicated, Tsadaq. Because of all of them, Yahweh saves, delivering and sparing with him. Because of all of them, Yahweh saves, delivering and sparing with him. Because of all of them. God's not saying that he saves just because of what he did through Dowd, although that was magnificent. He isn't saying that he will save this remnant of his people through what he will do through Yada, even though that will be the greatest show on earth. Because of all of them, Yahweh saves, delivering and sparing with him. It takes a team. We have Team Yah. We're all going to be engaged. God's calling all of us to duty. It's time. We have less than 8 years remaining. We can do this. We will do this. God has already credited us for having done a good job. Let's live up to his expectations. Well, this has been Yahweh's approach since the beginning as shepherds. He leads his people, and he indeed shepherds and saves through those of his choosing. And the sacrifices are brutal, thereby more effectively garnering his people's attention and driving this point home. And well, this is no exception. This is one of the lines that I told you we would consider. It is addressing me. And so it's a tight bit painful to read. Hoping that my wife is on the airplane and not hearing this. She's winging her way back to us. If she's listening, then she ought to go get a soft drink or something. Focused upon Shamar, observing and examining. His estem, his corporeal nature, all of his bones comprising his skeleton and substantial essence, his vertebrae, all of them, one of them, Ichad men henna, one of them is not broken and crushed, mauled and shattered, is not injured. Nifl, perfect. Third person, feminine singular. In the context of gruesome sacrifices for the salvation of Yisrael, this one makes Dhaka, pulverized, seem like a walk in the park. I say this because lo is used to negate the verb shabar and is not addressing estem or ichad. So rather than saying not one of his bones is broken, it reveals that by focusing on all of his bones, one of them is not broken. If someone were to assume that this was addressing Dowd's crucifixion, and if the negation was before estem rather than the verb shamar, or even before each had one, but it doesn't read not one. It reads of all of his bones, One was lo shabar, not broken. Now, clearly, Dowd's sacrifice by being flailed alive and then crucified by the Romans was brutal, excruciating agony. But in his case, it is evident that it was not prolonged, even though breaking both of his shins would have shortened the agony. Apart from those they wanted to suffer beyond comprehension, the Romans broke the tibia and fibia in their victims' shins so that they would no longer be able to push up on the nails driven through their ankles. This would preclude flexing of the diaphragm. If you're hanging from a nail in the joints of your wrists, you're hanging, your diaphragm won't work. It won't flex. And if it won't flex, you can't pull air into your lungs. They're just static. You suffocate. But if you can push up, then you can breathe. They broke the shins so that the victim would die more expeditiously and wouldn't suffer as long. That did not happen with Dowd. On a broader scale, with Dowd, if we were to define a stem as it is in the presentation of the Miqraey of matzah, which would be as essential, then the prophecy fits the Messiah during the fulfillment of the Moed. While there were no bones accompanying his nefesh in Sheol, the compressive gravity of the black hole would have been crushing to his essential nature, although he was enveloped in the set-apart spirit of Yahowah. On the other hand, if this prophecy applies to Yada's sacrifice as the Adamah Parah, which is really evident by the dialogue that has led up to it, then the beating he receives from Satan on Taruwah, on the Temple Mount, will leave only one of the major bones. There's 206 total bones in the human body, but some of them are as tiny as a grain of rice in the inner ear, and the skull is considered like 12 different bones. And the backbone has many vertebrae. This could be saying that his back's going to be broken, and that would be significant and painful, but actually in a way it would eliminate pain and it would suffice for this description. But all we know is that of all of the bones, only one will not be broken. The assault on his Bashar will be supernatural. It will be unrelenting. And that's obviously a beating worthy of the Dhaka crushing depiction cited previously. From this perspective, this is what we should expect. With matzah and taruw'ah, both removing the stubborn stains of religious guilt of many, we would expect that this price would be high. And it would be similar between King and Herald, Dowd and Yada. They are working together as brothers. That they have to have a sense of camaraderie, having gone through similar experiences. It's what brings people together. It's what causes them to trust one another. And there's a bit of camaraderie being developed here between the two, with one descending into Satan's prison and the other being mauled by Satan. Now, because of the Torah and through the Miqraey, there is life and death. Before I go to that, though, I want to say there's also a coming together with the final beast. When Gabriel, God's most confident and courageous man, from derivative of Gabor, the very nature of the title of the series, when he spoke of the transition and the evolution of beasts from Babylon, where religion and politics was intermixed to confuse and confound, to Persia, to Greece, to Rome, and then the ultimate beast that would tread upon the whole world, being the Roman Catholic Church. It was Rome that was the most vicious to the Messiah. Rome controlled the Temple Mount at that time, and it was Rome that crucified Dowd. Rome that beat Dowd. One of the things that we're learning about the Torahless one, the great betrayer, Donald Trump, is that he is establishing the Fourth Reich. We're going from the imperial Rome and the viciousness of imperial Rome to the impression of oppression and persecution of the Roman Catholic Church as the great beast and the Holy Roman Empire, to the Nazis as the Third Reich. Donald Trump is the Der Fuhrer of the Fourth Reich, building a great ballroom to himself, recasting the White House in his image. He is building an Ark of Trump for the Capitol. He is going to make his pronouncement that he is essentially Caesar and God on the Ides of March, the great Roman holiday, March 15th of 2030. These things are connected, and he will do so on the Temple Mount. The shepherd will die, the best man who tends the flock. Best man here doesn't mean that he's the best of men, because that's Dowd. It means that he is Dowd's best man. He is dying here to purge the adulterous woman of her religious guilt so that he can have a bride come Gabor. The shepherd will die, having been killed for the guilty. The shepherd will die, his life slaughtered for the guilty, for those who have gone astray. However, those who shun, are adverse to, disrespect, and hate the Tsadaq, the one who is correct and vindicating, they will be declared guilty, and they will suffer the resulting punishment. Get it? You understand what's being offered, what's going to be done, and how your choice of how you respond will determine the fate of your soul? You realize that this is the message that Yahweh has tasked us with sharing? I'm going to do my job. I am doing my job. I will continue to be devoted to Yahweh and his beloved Son, my King. I want you to help. I'm not going to ask you to pick up your cross, however. I'll endure this torment alone. Of course, there is no cross, but it's just a funny line under the circumstances. I'll suffer the pain. But I want you to be there to make sure that it counts. We can't endure what happened to Dowd, where he suffered the anguish only to be rejected and denied by his people. When this happens, even with Elia proclaiming what it means, I need you to be there. I need you to be there before it happens, to provide a foundation for this so that it's understood. Don't let this happen to me for nothing. Too much is riding on it. Now, I did not say, don't let this happen to me. I want it to happen. I'm all in. I just want it to count, to matter, to mean something. And that's where you come in. So there has been, and there will be, a redeeming aspect to this sacrifice. The shepherd leading, feeding, and protecting the flock at this time will offer his life for the sheep. As was the case on Matzah, it will be repeated on Taruwah. Religious guilt is expunged, leaving the souls of the beneficiaries appearing perfect in God's eyes. Also interesting, the timing that brings these two men together more than any other is that they are right. Well, they are Tsadaq about Yahweh, particularly in the fulfillment of the Moed Miqraey. And therefore their words and their deeds are vindicating. And because they are right, because they engage, as the fourth day's testimony in Bereshith, Genesis 1 declares, 14 through 18, they are the greater and lesser luminaries that serve as signs for the Moed. Yahweh not only values and perceives them as prepared and capable of bearing this burden. Dowd was, I will be. They demonstrate what is possible for those who follow them, not following them through the sacrifice, but recognizing that by following those willing to make such a sacrifice and who all the while are right about God will lead them into God's arms. With so much at stake, literally the intent of the Moedim, the benefits of the Bereth, the fulfillment of the Nabi, those who oppose what these men are offering in collaboration with Yahweh will retain their guilt. And they will be held accountable for what they have done. And this punishment will play out in Sheol. You have been warned. And so now that you know, this is how Yahweh intends to rescue his people from themselves. Yahweh ransoms and redeems, liberating and saving the souls of his co-workers and his collaborators, of those he associates with and those who serve with him in an official capacity. And so all of those who take refuge in him and who are spared by relying upon and trusting him for saving them, he will find that he is declared not guilty. He will be acquitted. He will be exonerated from all wrongdoing. There is no guilt when your guilt is expunged, whether it is washed clean by the waters and the ash and the flames of Taruwah, are taken into Sheol on Matzah, never to be seen again. Without guilt, you are acquitted. You are not guilty. God works through people. Yes, indeed. Ordinary individuals in extraordinary circumstances. Once the absurdity of Jesus as the man God is torn asunder, all that remains from beginning to end of God's story, his interaction and communication with humankind, is to tell us that he works through us. And those unique individuals that he chooses, they are few and far between. And it is seldom more than one at a time. But he advances his story and his intent through them. And it's never just one. Maybe one at a time. But as Moshe found out, Yahowah said, I have a couple of guys, Dowd and my Dowd. And so of this you can be assured. Yahowah provided the means to remove our religious guilt and to acquit our souls through his collaboration with men of his choosing. They were Gabor. Should you choose to agree, you can share eternity with them. So before we move on, and I was hoping that we would be able to start our Family Hour show with a very serious and stern 35th Mizmowr, and we will be able to. I'm going to recap for you without interruption the magnificent nature of Dowd's 34th. Concerning Dowd, I will commend and extol that which pertains to Yahowah in every situation and on every occasion, continually conveying his positive attributes, his renown and reputation by my mouth. With Yahowah, my soul continually radiates light and shines brilliantly apart from any outside influences. The responsive who answer choose to continually listen, and they're elated. You should choose to become great, even glorious, growing in stature by approaching Yahowah with me. You should choose to lift up his name together. We should do this together. I sought to find, to learn about, and then form a relationship with Yahowah. And he answered me. And from all of my concerns and anxieties, he delivered me. They look to him, being observant regarding him, and they have a joyful countenance, traveling as a joyful stream, shining like a fluid river of light. Therefore, their appearance, their faces and presence will never show confusion or dismay. As they explore, there is no anxiety or distress. They are never confounded or humiliated, especially when searching by digging for answers. This man who replies with answers will call out, reading and reciting, as he issues a summons for the Miqraey. And Yahowah will listen. Then from all of his unfavorable circumstances, as well as his distressful situation with the rival, who is a vexing and troubling woman, he will deliver and liberate him, saving through him. The Malak, the spiritual messenger of Yahowah, bivouacs, being sent down to compassionately camp out, concerned and caring all around, out of respect for him. And so he removes threats and he takes them away. Experience this. Taste the difference. While witnessing and being shown that which is valuable and true. Indeed, Yahowah is good. He's beneficial and agreeable. The capable and confident man, this Gabor, who trusts him for his safety and who relies on him for his protection and well-being, receives the benefits of the relationship and is joyful in his approach to life. Those of you who are set apart and special to him, you've chosen to respect Yahowah. Therefore, as a result, for those who respect and revere him, there is no scarcity of anything vital for life or success. The adolescent lion, a bit impoverished and weakened from malnutrition, but those who seek, inquire about, and account for Yahowah, they never lack for anything. They have what is good, productive, beneficial, and worthwhile. Those who move forward, standing up and walking, making progress in life's journey, these children, sons, they choose to listen to me. I will teach you how to properly respect Yahweh. Who is this man who desires lives, loving the days to witness to that which is productive and beneficial? Keep your tongue from that which is wrong, troubling, and harmful, and your lips from saying that which is dishonest and deceptive, especially that which is deliberately misleading by offering false narratives. You should choose to turn away from that which is wrong and harmful and decide to act upon and engage in that which is beneficial, productive, and useful, opting of your own free will to diligently seek and procure the information that is needed to obtain reconciliation. Then pursue it. The eyes and focus of Yahweh are directed towards those who are right, and his ears are concerned about their call for assistance. The presence of Yahweh is with those who engage and who act against that which is wrong, injurious, and harmful. They, as the most memorable of men, establish the covenant on behalf of the material realm. Those who call out loudly, issuing a bold summons, therefore Yahweh hears. And from all of their troubles, dire circumstances, and every distressful situation, he delivers them, defending and saving them, snatching them away. Yahweh approaches and draws near in close and intimate proximity to the judgmental with the proper disposition, who are bruised and battered for scrutinizing and abolishing, testing and disapproving, then demolishing. And through those who are bludgeoned and crushed in spirit, he provides deliverance and salvation. A great many are shepherded, they're guided and led, protected, befriended, and nurtured by being right, and therefore vindicated. Because of all of them, Yahweh saves, delivering and sparing with him. Focused upon his corporeal nature, all of his bones comprising his skeleton and substantial essence, one of them is not injured, broken, or crushed, mauled to the point of being shattered. The shepherd tending the flock will die, having been killed, even slaughtered, for the guilty who have gone astray. However, those who shun and are adverse to, who disrespect and disdain, even oppose Tsadaq, the one who is right, correct, and vindicating, they will be declared guilty, and they're going to suffer the resulting punishment. Yahweh ransoms and redeems, liberating and saving the souls of his co-workers and collaborators. And so, all of those who take refuge in him and who are spared by relying upon and trusting him for saving them will be declared not guilty and acquitted, exonerated from all wrongdoing, culpability, and punishment. Mizmowr, Psalm 34. Absolutely glorious.